Student support and teaching must be pointed at all parts of the distant student. Your teaching and support must be proactive, reaching out to students rather than waiting for them to contact you. And finally, it needs to be personal. So over the years, of course, I've spoken with many students at a distance, and they say things to me like, my tutor was so enthusiastic that she always kept me motivated to learn. I think that's a good example of support pointed at the motivational part of the emotional brain. Another student said to me, when I got ill, the university rescheduled my studies for me. So I think that's a good example of support that was pointed at the organizational brain. And then this student told me I was about to drop out when someone called me from the university. So I got going again. I think that's a really good example of how proactive support can catch students and keep them going at points where they might otherwise drop out. And finally, I think of the student who said, I always felt that people at the university knew who I was. It was a great help. That's an example of personal support. So these are just examples of the importance of how we should teach and support our students in online education. But in thinking about this presentation, I thought all that is very important, but I still have a question about not just how we teach our students, but what we should teach them. Well, of course, we all teach different subjects. I used to teach physics myself many years ago in science, and I've had friends and colleagues who taught all kinds of different subjects, from the arts to the sciences to technology and so on. But I think there's one thing that we should all teach. Let me explain again. The British philosopher Lord Bertrand Russell, and who was a Nobel Prize winner, once said, many people would rather die than think, and sometimes do. And this quote has come to my mind quite frequently in the past year when I hear about people who, for instance, deny that vaccines work. I think they are among the people who think, but who don't think, rather, but might end up dying as a result. A more modern way of putting that is due to another Nobel Prize winner. This is Professor Daniel Kahneman, who wrote a book called Thinking Fast and Slow. Professor Kahneman says that there are two ways of thinking that we all have. He says our system one thinking is fast and instinctive, but has a tendency to ignore evidence. Our system two thinking is slow, analytical, and always uses evidence. He says that, well, we do need both types of thinking. If you're walking along a track and run into a tiger, then you need your system one thinking, because your instinct, quite correctly, is immediately to run away as fast as you can. And there's a good chance you might survive. If you use your system two thinking and think, now, what is this animal I see in front of me? What does the evidence say about this animal? If you think too long, you might end up getting eaten. But if we need other kinds of thinking, well, the example I took was of vaccines. Too many people, they have their system one thinking and they say vaccines are fake news, and sadly, they may end up dying. But if they use their system two thinking and look at the evidence that vaccines actually work, they may actually live. System two thinking will help us to avoid all the fake news that is around us and is especially on the internet. So whatever subjects we teach, the one thing that we must teach them is how to think and how to judge evidence. Well, I've reached the end of my presentation, and I hope you found it interesting and helpful. But I also hope that you'll be thinking and asking what evidence I have for all the things I've been saying. You will find some of that evidence in my book and a lot of other material which is on my website, which is all freely available to anyone who wants to use it. So, my last message to you at this very important conference is that we teachers have very great responsibility. If we want to shape a humane world, then really it's up to us. Because for our children's sakes, we need to take this responsibility on. Thank you very much, colleagues, for listening. I hope that you enjoy the
conference. Thank you very much, respected.
Thank you.
Professor. We apologize for that. You were waiting for that one. So thank you very much. Thank you so much. And now we are looking forward in the coming days also for your nice presentation. It's a very nice presentation. I learned so many things from here as a teacher of Nepal Open University, and we hope that everyone learned from here how to deal with the students in online learning. It was really great, really insightful for us. Thank you so much, Professor Simpson.
It's been a pleasure. I can see that you have many questions.
Now we have another parallel session. Yeah, now I'm in another computer. Thank you so much, Professor Simpson. We are honored from your presence, your presentation. We learned so many things, and we hope we'll buy your book and distribute to our teachers here. because really your presentation is it was very wonderful. That's why we may learn so many things in also. Thank you so much. Namaste.
It's been a pleasure.
Now our parallel session, another parallel session is going to start. So I would like to request our moderator.
Thank you, Jeevan sir.
To start the program.
Thank you, sir. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, and namaste. I am Mankumar Roy. I am MPhil scholar of first semester at Nepal Open University. I am pleased to be a moderator for this afternoon session. Eva sir, are you hearing me?
Yes, sir. Yes.
What about our Thir sir and Surendra sir? Thir sir?
Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm here.
Thank you,
Yeah,
sir. Surendra,
I'm
sir?
also here, sir. I'm also here.
All right, sir. Okay, we are going to have a wonderful presentation by a scholar, Mr. Tribadur Kharka, MPhil scholar of first semester at Nepal Open University, and he is an assistant lecturer of Midwestern University. He is going to present on the topic physical classroom to online mode of learning in COVID-19 pandemic, university English teachers and students experiences. We have been informed that because of time frame, we are not given 20 minutes. We have been just given 10 minutes, sir. There won't be any question answer session. You have to complete within 10 minutes. I'm sorry to say so because of time frame. So floor is for you, sir.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Namaste. Warm welcome. Good afternoon, all the distinguished scholars, dignitaries, chair of this session, moderators, paper presenters, and all the participants. Thank you very much, and warm welcome in my presentation. I am Thir Bahadur Khadka, an MPhil scholar at Nepal Open University and assistant professor of English at Midwestern University. So today I would like to present my paper on physical classroom to online mode of learning in COVID-19 pandemic, university English teachers and students experiences. I developed this paper almost spending more than 6 months, and there are so many things in my paper. But as this is a very short presentation, I'll not be talking on many things. So I'll be limiting my presentation on the topic, very, let's say, brief points like research questions, background, methodology, key findings, and conclusion and implication. In order to conduct this study, I developed 3 research questions related to university English teachers and students' experiences of online teaching and learning, as well as the ways the teachers, university teachers, they prepared and taught their lessons in online classes. So as such, this study tried to analyze the online teaching and learning experiences of the university teachers and students, particularly during COVID-19 pandemic in the context of Nepal. It's really a wide known fact that the outbreak of COVID-19 brought challenges in almost all the fields worldwide. Nepal also did not remain untouched because of this problem. So there was a nationwide lockdown since March 24, 2020. That caused the university colleges to remain closed for a long time. Physical classes were suspended, and actually those universities they had to think about some alternative mode of teaching in the context of Nepal Open University and some of the programs of Kathmandu University were already familiar with these sorts of teaching and learning practices. However, many other universities and their colleges were not familiar. Yet they had to think about it. They had to begin and they had to take initiation. So they decided, and the teachers and the students, they were not familiar. However, somehow they began online classes that brought different sorts of experiences, which I try to analyze through this study. In order to conduct this study, I followed qualitative methodology. It was qualitative in design. I applied online semi-structured interview using Zoom application. I consulted 6 university teachers and 12 master students as my respondents, and they were selected purposely from 3 university colleges. Uh, uh, 18 online classes of the university English teachers were observed, and the collected data were analyzed thematically. So the findings of my study are categorized into 3 themes. The first one is the let's say learning a new tech, learning new technology for new way of teaching and learning. As I have already said that it was a new practice for many university colleges in Nepal. The teachers and the students were not familiar with it. There were so many technical challenges. The teachers and the students, they were confused in the beginning. The teachers were confused regarding how to operate Zoom, how to operate Google Meet, Google Classroom, and some other, let's say, online and teaching tools. They were confused uh, how to host the classes, how to send the link to their students, how to share their slides, and how to admit the students, and many more. So there were many challenges. Even the old generation of teachers who were at the verge of their retirement, they say they did not see any sort of significance of learning new technology. However, they had to update with new technology. They had to begin it. It was not. It was in fact their obligation. It was their compulsion. So they began online classes with whatever knowledge, skills, and resources they had. They also consulted their friends. They learned through the collaboration with their colleagues. They searched YouTube videos, online resources, and different, let's say, their colleges also organized some of the online trainings. They also supported them to begin online teaching and learning practices in Nepal. Slowly and gradually, they developed e-pedagogical skills. They learned to design digital materials, explore online resources, present lessons, and involve students in online interactions. They also reduced their dependency on printed textbooks. They developed their skills of using different digital materials. And in fact, they went ahead in this alternative modes of teaching and learning practices. The students also learned many things. They developed their familiarity with the technology. They developed self-directed learning skills and became able to set their goals, collect different digital materials, and they learned. Actually, the existing literature in Nepal have reported that there is not the sufficiency in terms of ICT in Nepal. There are so many problems, almost consistent to the existing literature. The participants of this study also shared their frustrating experience regarding the, let's say, reliability of internet facilities and other different technical things. There was unstable internet and frequent power cut that created challenge for this mode of teaching and learning. There was no broadband internet facility in the remote areas. Many students still remained out of their classes. So because of weak Wi-Fi connectivity, blurry voice was heard. Mobile data was expensive. The government had declared to provide subsidy. However, the students did not get such sorts of things. However, the students tried to manage their online classes. So, for example, some of the students said that in the remote areas, they often visited the offices of rural municipality and tried to be connected in their online classes. Some of the students shared their experience that in order to join their classes using mobile data and by walking or going to the top of the hill, for example, walking 5 kilometers, they also tried to join their classes. They struggled. Some of the students, one of the students said that he attended all his online classes by standing on the road. Anyway, they did so. They tried their hard, and somehow they developed their familiarity and they learned many things through online classes. And students, especially, they developed their collaborative learning skills. The teachers supported them to develop such things. the skills, collaborative learning skills, were also supported by different discussion forums and chat rooms available on Zoom, Google Meet, Messenger, and some of the other online tech, let's say, tools that they used. The project-based questions, the group learning activities, which were given by their teachers, supported the students to be active in their online classes. And the skills that they developed through their online learning, okay, they could be transferred to other national and international forums. It was one of the most important things, important skills that the students developed from their, let's say, online classes. For example, one of the participants said, my online discussion forum circle is very large. I not only interact with my classmates, but also the friends of other universities and countries. I constantly discuss on many things like the use of ICT devices and tools, problems in using them, as well as many more contents. It shows that in physical classes, to have such things, to have such broad, let's say, discussion forums was almost impossible. However, this, let's say, online teaching and learning practices developed these sorts of skills. So the shift from a physical classroom to online mode of teaching and learning became a kind of opportunity for both the teachers as well as the students to learn so many things, new things. Okay, it not only mitigated the challenges, not only reduced the challenges of COVID-19 pandemic education, but also it became a kind of opportunity for the teachers and the students, or the university institutions, to reshape, to reconstruct, to update their teaching and learning practices. The teachers and the students were found motivated, okay, in terms of learning new technologies. They were found eager to develop these sorts of learning practices. They develop their gradual familiarity also, and it shows that there is potentiality of online teaching and learning practices in Nepal. Okay. However, there should be some of the, let's say, things that have to be done from the side of the government, from the side of the university authority, and from the side of the local, let's say, governments also. There should be the proper ICT infrastructure. The synchronous and asynchronous mode of learning should be developed in more systematic way. There should be the subsidy to marginalized community students in terms of technology. There should be the sufficient ICT training, and the recruitment of young generation of teachers also should be done. If these things can be managed, then online teaching and learning practices can go ahead with more fruitful results. Even after COVID-19, it can we can begin, or let's say, blended mode of learning, and it can also brought so many students in the access of learning. So it can also promote inclusive educational environment. uh, while conducting this study, I consulted, I used many materials of these researches. So they are listed here in the references.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Uh,
Tirsa. I am extremely sorry for inconvenient time. I am extremely sorry to say that question session has been eliminated because of time bound. I have been told to decrease 20 minutes program into 10. Thank you very much for your wonderful presentation, Tirsa.
Thank you.
Now,
Thank you.
we would like to call another my friend, Mr. Shiva sir. Shiva sir.
Hazur. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mankumar, sir. Good afternoon and namaste, everybody. It's me, Shiva Bania, an MPhil scholar at Nepal Open University. Thank you for being this afternoon. Now, we are pleased to welcome Mr. Surendra Ghimire, an MPhil scholar at Nepal Open University. He will be sharing with us his opinion, allocating time. I would like to request Mr. Ghimire for presenting. Surendra sir. Surendra sir.
Surendra sir, you have to unmute, I think.
Yeah. Sir, am I audible now?
Yes, sir. Yes. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry. 1 minute, just. Yeah. Um, Namaste and good afternoon, everybody. Me, Surendra Prasad Gimire, an MPhil Scholar of Nepal Open University. I would like to welcome you all in the parallel session of STAR Conference 2020. My topics of presentation is secondary students' perception of COVID-19 information on Facebook, a case study in Nepal. Here, this article reports how secondary students perceive the information relevant to COVID-19 pandemic on the Facebook wall. Moreover, this article reports how the information relevant to COVID-19 pandemic support the secondary student to empower to overcome from the fear created by COVID-19 pandemic. COVID-19 pandemic brought a chaos and disorder almost every sector, nationally and internationally. The literature reports that it brought devastating impact, particularly in the field of academic. Teaching and learning. However, some of the literature reports that it brought a lot of chances in the field of teaching and learning. But in the context of Nepal, when after the outbreak of COVID-19 pandemic, schools and universities were closed, examination of the different level were cancelled, since government of Nepal declared lockdown on 24th March, 2020. Then after, mostly community college and schools were transformed into the quarantine to keep those who were suspected from the infection of coronavirus. And some of the schools in the urban area would like to continue their education using ICT, online based education, they would like to continue, but lack of ICT and internet access, trained teacher, their education system could not be continued for long. It brought rather inequality, disparity in the system of education. And another side, use of Facebook and social media, different social media, particularly use of Facebook has been growing, particularly outbreak from the COVID-19 pandemic in the context of Nepal, with the support of Nepal Telecoms provided data, and they use Facebook, excessive use of Facebook. And Facebook, provided great chance to share their feelings, their idea. It has become even means of reading, writing, sharing also. It is estimated that more than 50% people in Nepal were the active user of Facebook. I have observed the wall of the Facebook were full of information relevant to COVID-19 pandemic. Personally, I am a secondary teacher. That trigger in my mind, how secondary students has observed, how secondary students has perceived the information relevant to COVID-19 pandemic. That triggered me. I would like to find out. So I raised the question, such as how secondary students perceive the information relevant to COVID-19 pandemic, and how such information support them to empower from the fear of COVID-19 pandemic. I raised two research questions. To find out the answer of these two research questions became the objective of my study. And to find out the answer of these two questions, I have selected qualitative interpretative research design. 10 students were selected, purposely selected from the secondary level on the basis of their voluntary participation, and I have observed their Facebook wall continue for 5 weeks. And I prepared the observational diary. I have reported all the new data I derived from the observation. And after receiving informed consent letter from the participant, I have taken online semi-structured interview with them. And I have read a lot of archive documents against the data I have derived from observation and interview. And I analyzed them. After analyzing, three themes were generated on the basis of commonality of subject matter, the data, and they were thematically analyzed. And after the analysis of the data, I found the answer of those research questions. Some of the answer I found. And majority of the secondary students, they had awareness of COVID-19 pandemic. Though some of them, they didn't care what COVID-19 pandemic is, that how to be protected. Some of them didn't care, but majority of the students, okay, how to be protected, they had awareness. What COVID-19 pandemic, they had a general information. They would like to share the information with their relatives in the community, friends. They would like to, they had a social responsibility. They would like to protect others people also from the infection of COVID-19 pandemic. They are aware of misinformation, the impact of misinformation, possible danger that would create by the misinformation in the society. They had awareness about what COVID-19 is and how to be protected from COVID-19 pandemic. And similarly, they accommodate with the new environment, such as the environment that was created by COVID-19 pandemic. They thought that staying inside the house was not the solution, was not bring the solution. They could not fight against the problem created by COVID-19 pandemic. They had fear in the beginning. Slowly, gradually, after reading some positive information, positive news, and too many things, they developed their confidence. They overcome from the fear created by COVID-19 pandemic, such as positive information, less death rate from COVID-19 pandemic, high recovery rate. Because of that such a positive information gave them confidence, and then moreover, they would like to be keep in touch with the latest information, and they try to adapt in the new situation. They would like to continue their daily life, but being safe. Applying certain method, let's say that maintaining distance, wearing face masks, sanitizing their hands. They would like to continue their activity. And similarly, they would like to react against the government of Nepal. Especially government of Nepal didn't care their academic condition. They had a lot of problems they were facing because of COVID-19 pandemic. Of Nepal didn't pay attention, didn't bring the solution. The problem created by the COVID-19 pandemic, their exam were cancelled, postponed. They couldn't get chance to take the examination. So they expressed their dissatisfaction towards the government of Nepal. They revolt against the corruption, injustices, and they expressed their dissatisfaction towards online class too. And similarly, implication of this study, probably social media, particularly Facebook, can be used to minimize the impact or possible danger of the crisis, or to make conscious to the people in the future. Appropriate use of Facebook, while appropriate use of social media can support to make people aware in the future, providing right information to them. And however, that cannot be exactly, we cannot say. Context should be changed in the future. So to find out its meaning, its role of the social media, Facebook, another research is needed to investigate the role of media in the future, particularly Facebook in the future. In short, in conclusion, this paper reports COVID-19 secondary student had awareness of COVID-19 pandemic, and they got information, latest information from the different social media, and particularly Facebook wall, and they attempt to adjust in the new environment created by COVID-19 pandemic. They would like to continue their regular activity, adjusting, applying safety measures, sanitizing, maintaining social distances. They thought that staying at home would not be the solution. They need to struggle against the problem created by COVID-19 pandemic. So they would like to come out, continue their regular activities, being safe, and they express their reaction against the government of Nepal, particularly in the academic problem. Government could not bring the mature decision to solve the academic problem created by COVID-19 pandemic. Okay, and thank you very much.
Wonderful presentation, Surendra sir. Thank you very much. Thank you, presenter Surendra sir, and dear audience. This time goes for panel discussion. That's why I want to say goodbye, namaste, bye-bye.
Thank you, sir.
Excuse me, Yadu sir. Karna sir.
Hello.
Okay.
Hazuman sir.
our two presenters have completed presenting over the research article, then I think who will be handling this next program, sir?
There is Rishi Sharma and Babita Parajuli, ma'am.
Yes.
Okay, Bhavita,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Hello. Am I audible there?
Yes,
Yeah, ma'am.
yes, ma'am.
Namaste, good morning, and good afternoon, everyone. The distinguished members of this panel, respected academics, and dear participants in Zoom and Facebook Live. This is Facebook plus YouTube Live. Welcome to the second session's panel discussion of the STAR Conference 2020. Thank you very much for joining us in today's conference. I am Babita Parajuli, and I'm an MPhil student in Nepal Open University. Today, we are having the panel discussion with the theme of leadership and professional development opportunities and challenges in the 21st century. Now, allow me to proceed with some of the reminders to the dear participants and the panelists before we get started. So let me confirm, am I audible there?
Yeah, you are audible, ma'am.
Okay. So here are some of the reminders that if you have any questions to the panelists during the panel discussion, please type them into the chat box. We will have the time for those questions at the end. And I request to all the panelists to cooperate with the time. So you will be provided about 4 to 5 minutes time for a question. So all the panelists, they can use raise hand options if they want to add their one perspective when another panelist is speaking. So now, without any further ado, may I request Mr. Rishi Sharma to introduce the panelist. Over to you, Rishi sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Babita ma'am. First of all, I am very happy to be the part of this STAR conference as a moderator. And without doing delay, I would like to introduce our distinguished panelists in this very important and valuable session today. Professor Leknath Sharma currently is the Vice Chancellor of Nepal Open University. Professor Sharma is the Professor of Mathematics and has served as Head of Department and Chief of various campuses of Tribhuvan University in his career. As a founding director of Open and Distance Education Center at Tribhuvan University, he has contributed to the transformation of national teaching and learning into internet-based learning in Nepal. Professor Sharma has experience of coordinating international projects funded by different countries like Denmark, Norway, and Finland. Chair and coordinator in those projects, he has worked and been working in the different committees in the Ministry of Education and University Grand Commission. He is a coordinator of Committee of Education, Pedagogy and Alternatives, has contributed to all the development and guidelines for educational management in the pandemic crisis. Welcome to Professor Leknath Sharma sir in this panel discussion. And in the same way, we have very distinguished personality, a panelist, Dr. Josephina Baltidono. She is founder and director of Executive Leadership Academy, Center for Studies of Higher Education, California. Josephina Baltidono is currently serving as a UCA, Beckerley is a Senior Associate External Relations of Center for Studies in Higher Education and founding Executive Director and Executive Leadership Academy, ELA. ELA is a multi-day program designed to provide insights and experiences that will be useful to persons who are who are interested in moving to high-level university and college leadership positions such as president and chancellor, etc. So welcome to Dr. Josephina in this panel session, and we are very happy to invite you in this panel discussion. And respectively, the Professor Prem Naran Aryal is also distinguished panelist of this discussion session. He is Vice Chancellor of Pokhara University. He is an expert of childhood development because he received a PhD in child development from Banaras Hindu University. He is former president of Nepal Public Campus also, member of High Level Commission Education Commission 2054-2055, former president of Federation of UNESCO Club of Nepal, and he has been executive member of Seto Gras Child Development Services also. And the important thing is that he is Senate member of Nepal Open University, Far Eastern University, and Purvanchal University. So welcome to all three distinguished panelists, respected personalities in this discussion session. So for further discussion, I would like to request Babita Prajuli ma'am. Over to you, Babita ma'am, please.
Well, thank you very much, Rishi sir. So, yeah, I'm watching Professor Dr. Leknath Sharma is available with us, and we are still waiting to two of the other panelists, Professor Dr. Oriel and Josefina. So, no, yeah. Okay, okay. We are very honored to welcome you back to the main discussion over here. So, as we have one of the very respected panelists is available, and hope other two of the panelists will be available very soon. Thank you so much for investing your time with us at this moment in this platform. Today, we are presenting a very interesting and informative panel based on the theme of leadership and professional development opportunities and challenges for the 21st century, especially focusing in the higher education. So we will discuss about each of the panelists' particular experience of the leadership in higher education, the different organizational challenges and professional
Babita ma'am, we have a guest in the lobby room. So they are coming here, Prem Narayan sir.
Okay,
and
let's
another
welcome
guest
them.
is also coming here.
Okay, yeah, it's better to wait for them and the panel. Okay.
Babita ma'am, excuse me,
Yes,
Babita ma'am.
yes,
Our
please.
guests are coming. Our guests are coming. They are waiting in the lobby room.
Okay, okay. I will just wait for a few seconds to them.
Yeah.
Okay, Jivan sir, it would be better to manage to arrange in this room to the panelists.
Yeah, because we are trying to enter them to this room. We were busy in this room and we didn't find anyone in the room number 5. Just we opened. Prem Narayan sir is there.
Okay, so
another
I'm also checking.
There. Just we got them and we are working.
Yeah. Professor Dr. Prem Narayan Orial is with us here. Welcome to Professor Orial to the panel discussion. So yeah, I'm checking either Dr. Josefina is available with us or not. So Jiban sir, can you inform about her arrival? Is she on the lobby room or? So what about her?
She's in lobby room. I trying to enter in this room.
Yeah, we'd love to have all of them here before we get started.
Excuse me, ma'am, I have already introduced them. It is necessary to revise once again or not?
Yeah, it's fine, sir.
Okay.
Well, so in this panel, we will be talking about the panelists' special experience, especially so with the context of their organization. So we will talk about the situation of leadership in higher education and the different opportunities and challenges of professional development in the particular sector where they are engaged. So I'm still waiting to welcome Dr. Josefina. So I think she is she will be available very soon with us. So yeah, it's midnight, almost midnight in California. She is managing her time from there. So well, can I? Jiban sir, what would you suggest me? So can I proceed with other two of the panelists and I can welcome her later?
Yeah, you may.
Yeah.
We don't have time. That's why.
Yes. Thinking the time constraints, I must be. Yeah, I must proceed. Okay. Uh, okay. So I will be taking with a connection also. Welcome to all the respected panelists. So two of the panelists are already here. So with the permission of you all and the panelists, I would like to begin today's discussion. So first of all, I would like to go with Dr. Sarma. Dr. Sarma, uh, is your current affiliation as the Vice Chancellor of Nepal Open University, and based on your years of long dedication in academic field, what is your experience? How is your experience on the situation of leadership in higher education, especially in the context of Nepal, focusing to the Nepal Open University? Over to you, Dr. Sarma.
Thank you, Babita ji, and all the participants of this discussion session. If there is some problem in my connectivity, then I will be shifting to my mobile phone. Otherwise, I will be doing from this connection. Thank you very much for your questions, and the question is very, very important and also challenging to answer also. Regarding my experience as a leadership, right now I am in the position of Vice Chancellor, but before this I have also led other institutions too. My experience shows that those who are leading in higher education institutions in Nepal, it's not as easier compared to other countries, other developed countries in the world. And it is because the context here, the context of higher education in Nepal is a bit different than the context of the other countries. However, there are some of the commonalities within the higher education institutes abroad. Right now, we have discourse of globalization of higher education and higher education institution in one point. And another one is university rankings to get a global rank, to establish university as one of the standard institutions. Other one, there are reduction in funding, cutback of the funding, or not adequate funding for running higher education. And the other thing is the very recent coming fourth industrial revolution. People say we are in 21st century, and then it has created different challenges. It will be creating more. So within this framework, we have to run our institution, and this context and this within this framework, or within this realities, we have to work as leadership. Also, what I feel, the leadership, higher education leadership in Nepal, they are like a sandwich between the authority, the higher authority, and the constitutional provisions and the students' facilities. Because it is said higher education is also the fundamental rights to people. And also concerning to Nepal Open University, people say this university is established by the government to provide access of higher education to all. In that case, if we are making something like charging fees,
Whatever.
Dr. Sharma, are you there, or he is muted? Let me check. Well, thank you, Dr. Sharma. So I hope he is He has some connection problem, and he will be joining very soon. So for now, I would like to welcome the perspective of
I'm in.
yeah.
Hello.
Namaste. Namaste. Good morning, Professor Dr. Josephina.
Good morning. Thank you, G.E. James. I'm so excited. I was so sad. Okay, now I'm happy. I can see you and see everybody else. Yes.
We were waiting you, and yeah, thank you very much for investing your time with us in this midnight. I think it's about midnight in California. So I'd like to welcome, and I'd like to provide the this next chance. So why not to help her to boost up her energy and confidence, because it's midnight and she is separating her very valuable time with us. So I like to greet and I like to ask that how is your observation on the theme of this panel? So what would you like to say about the international practice of leadership development, especially if you connect female leadership in higher education? So yeah, it would be very wonderful. So over to you, Dr. Josephina.
Thank you so much. Well, I was told that I would have 10 minutes. And so let me just do a quick presentation that will come out to 10 minutes. I represent the Executive Leadership Academy at UC Berkeley. We've been in existence for 10 years. So we've got data now from 10 years of working with 397 fellows in terms of leadership development. And we're very, very proud of the program because we've been following some basic concepts of how to train leaders for this next century. And from the very beginning, this program was unique in the United States because there was no other program like it. From the very beginning, 10 years ago, we designed it so it would focus on training individuals who wanted to be presidents and chancellors and provosts and deans occasionally, but mostly CEOs, with the understanding that we're going to train them how to lead in a multicultural and global environment. And now, given the climate that we're in this world, that topic was very timely. And so we've had a variety of successes because we used 27 executive leadership skills that we embedded into the 5 days that we had with them. And we also had some guiding principles or a value system that we embodied from the very beginning, and it seems to have worked. And the guiding principles or the value system are as follows. Number one, we wanted to work with people who were servant leaders that really cared about the mission of their institutions. Number two, we wanted to work with people who really believed that leading with a clear of head and pure of heart was the best way to lead in these treacherous times and some exciting, challenging times. Number three, we taught them and we wanted to work with people who were not afraid. So our motto was, be not afraid. Be not afraid to take a risk. Be not afraid to lead. Be not afraid to step in when you saw a social injustice occurring. And so throughout the program, we would continue to work with them with these guiding principles. And it seems to have worked well because our people are becoming chancellors and presidents. They're changing the world. And our common theory in terms of a strategy was, let's train the very best and the brightest with this concept in mind, that it's your attitude, not your aptitude, that will determine your altitude. And that's a famous saying by Zig Ziglar, because we wanted to work with people, predominantly women, a lot of women, and people of color of different diverse backgrounds. And so our faculty is also, we have 27 faculty members, and they're very much of a diverse background. And in fact, we're working on 2 books right now for the Academy that'll highlight the research that we've conducted with what we've learned working with these wonderful fellows. And one of the books is going to be presidential profiles of people who are faculty in our program who have retired as chancellors and presidents. And we want them to tell their story about how did they ascend to these high positions, and when they got there, what were their successes. And the second book we're working on, it's called the ELA Story. And there we're going to interview, and we're doing a research study on our fellows that have gone back to their campuses to implement what the faculty have taught them. Because our motto is, we want them to go back to their universities, and whatever we teach them as it pertains to those 27 executive leadership skills, we want them to go back and then to actually emulate and deploy and teach others. So the whole objective of whatever we're teaching is we want them to learn how to go back and teach others and develop their own professional development programs. And so in the second book we're working on, we will be highlighting the best practices of all the wonderful fellows that have gone back to the universities to enact what we wanted them to do. And so this has been for us a labor of love from the very beginning, because we wanted to work with people of a diverse background who sometimes have been told they can't do it, they're not smart enough, they're not educated enough. And our goal was to motivate them and inspire them and to help them. And I wanted to use the quote, and just closing off my brief comments, by Barack Obama. When he gave this quote, it was at Chicago. It was his victory speech, Chicago 2008. And he said, "Where we are met with cynicism and doubts, and those who tell us that we cannot will respond with that timeless creed that sums up the spirit of a people. Yes, we can," said Barack Obama back in his victory speech in Chicago in 2008. And that's been really our premise for working with the fellows that we've had such wonderful success with. And that concludes my brief remarks, because I was told I had 10 minutes.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Josephina. I will come to you again. So for now, let me welcome the perspective of Dr. Oriel. We have Dr. Oriel. Allow me to welcome his remarks. Dr. Oriel, currently being as the Vice Chancellor of Pokhara University. So how is your perspective on the based on the theme of this panel? So regarding your leadership in Pokhara University.
Greetings to all.
Greetings.
Good morning and good afternoon and good night. Also, I would like I have been appointed as a Vice Chancellor of Pokhara University. There are some problems that I am facing within 2 months of period. One thing is that government and high-level party leaders are not found serious about the problem of this university. They are talking about the national issues, but here are also professors, teachers, and faculties and students. And for 14 months, no leadership is here in this university. This is the problem, and there are chunk of problems. And without the authority, VC and registrar and academic council and executive board, no decisions can be done and implemented. So I'm feeling this problem, but we are deciding and we're trying to get the problem. But the other thing is that here a culture of and cooperation and provoking personal interest of the teachers and students is paramount. Okay, students log the vice chancellors and registrar's office, but the demand that should be demanded by the teachers. This is the case. Okay, and in this context, as I know, in globally or in other countries, I have seen this much of political interference we cannot see. Okay, and the other thing is that we do not have adequate funding from the government. Only 20% fund is available, and most of the 80% fund should be generated, should be collected from own entrepreneurship or from the affiliated colleges. And students demand that why these differences in their fees. Okay? And this is the point. And we also do have only 4 constituent campuses, yes, within the premises of the university. They are very near. If single problem arises, they all come to the vice chancellor office and directly start talking about their problem. Okay, and I know that there should be more constituent campuses. Okay, in different provinces of the country. And there is this is not the problem. This is also one movement in Nepal that our government is going to introduce provincial university. There is now new provincial university in Pokhara. And yes, within a short period of times, a political movement has been aroused about there also. People are not feeling well because there are three big institutions. One is Prithvinarayan campus, the biggest campus of Tribhuvan University, Pokhara University, and it is directed towards the innovative and practical activities. Most courses are based on innovation, practicals, all these things. Also, this provincial university. And because of this, there may be conflict among us regarding course contents, diversity, and teachers' preparation, all these things. Teachers, I think, are doing best. Yes, as I know, but because of this dynamic situation, just I have, our academic council decided yesterday about the legality of online teaching. Look here, and we are going to implement the examination system, and we have decided about examination not online but face to face. This because of the unavailability of the directors, the departments, and deans. We 3 or 4 people or authority have to decide all these things. This is what I am facing the problem. This is natural problem or artificial. I am unable to decide. And now, thank you so much. If any questions, then I will.
Okay. Thank you very much, Professor Dr. Orial. So I'll come back to you again. For now, I would like to ask to Dr. Sharma. Particularly in the context of Nepal Open University. So what innovative strategy does Nepal Open University develop during this pandemic situation to manage the teaching learning activities? Or what type of leadership challenges do you face in this period? So it's your time, Dr. Sharma.
Thank you, Babitaji. I am joining through mobile right now. Actually, leadership, higher education leadership has to have 2 roles. One is the role of managers that have to manage different resources and other things. And another role is very academic. So within these 2 roles, the leadership had to work. And while organizing these 2 roles at a time, there will be some hindrances or some obstruction in between. Regarding Nepal Open University, to address the issues of COVID-19 created new normal situation in education, that was not a very big problem to us because we had already been adapted the online mode, the blended mode. Actually, we were in blended mode, both face-to-face and the online mode were in practice in the past. It means that before pandemic. It means that with competencies that needs face-to-face interaction and face-to-face to work in laboratory or in field work or whatever, that component of the curriculum will be taken face-to-face. And those competencies which are very easier to provide to the students, that would be conducted through online mode. So having this pandemic situation and not being able to bring students and teachers together in a room or in a place, we shifted everything to online mode, and even examination, we had to do examination according to our rule, bringing teachers and students, teachers in a supervised examination hall. But we had the provision in our rules that we could do it through online also. So we shifted it easily to online mode, and we did. So we adapted
Dr. Sharma, you have one more minute to
authentic assessment system
conclude your remarks.
so that we didn't have any problems for that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So now allow me to request Dr. Josephina. So when I go through a few, so you have really a great experience of involving in the very top position, top leadership position in the different organization. And I was very happy to see the awards that you receive. And so on the basis of this, so what qualities or professional development opportunities do you suggest to be a successful female leader in the area of higher education in this very competitive world? So it's your time now.
Excellent, excellent idea. Happy you asked me that. As a matter of fact, this is what we look for when we try to identify potential leaders. And these are qualities, the 10 top qualities. And a lot of research has been done on this, not just Berkeley's research, but all over the country with different leadership programs. So number one, honesty and integrity is very important. Making sure that, you know, the people that you're developing in terms of leadership have honesty and integrity. Number two, humility. Humility is very important because you want to be gracious about, you know, what you're doing, and that's how you want to be an example for others. Number three, perseverance. The real art of leadership is perseverance, because none of us are going to be perfect all the time. We can be perfect most of the time, but not all the time. So we've got to have perseverance. Resiliency is number four. You know, leaders have to be, particularly women leaders, but all leaders have to be willing to get up and start over again when something doesn't go their way. They have to be persistent. Number five, this is really important. The ability to inspire and motivate others. As women leaders, we have to, and not just women leaders, but all leaders have, that's really the difference between a manager and a leader, so to speak, because the leader has to be able to inspire and motivate others at all times. Number six, ability to problem solve. Right now that we're going through this pandemic and online learning and blended learning, there's a lot of issues that surface. Like even tonight with our little glitch, you know, everybody was stayed calm, and before, you know, we knew it, there you were, and I was so happy. I go, oh, great, I can talk to everybody. But the ability to problem solve. Number seven, the ability to listen is very important. You've got to be able to listen. The listening ability is very critical. Number eight, I talked about it earlier, the servant leadership style. It's like the Rotarian International model, service above self. You want someone who really cares passionately about the university, about the students, about the staff, about the faculty, and not be so focused on themselves and what's in it for them. So for example, I always ask our fellows, when you're applying for a position, especially, you know, in leadership position, ask yourself the 3 W's. Number one, why that institution? Why do you want to work there? What's so special about their mission and their values? Number two, why you? Why should you be the one that they select? And number three, why now? Why is it so critical for this time in our world with all the challenges we have for a woman to be selected, for men of different diverse backgrounds to be selected? Because in this country, in the United States, the traditional path has been for European American men to climb and climb and climb and do really well. And for women, it's taking longer. And for people of color, it's taking longer. And then finally, having a high degree of political acumen is very important, and a high degree of emotional intelligence. So for example, political acumen, you know, when I was listening to the other gentleman earlier, it's so important. All these issues that come up, there's a way to solve them, every one of them, but you've got to have political acumen, and you've got to have a high degree of emotional intelligence to succeed. So thank you.
Well, thank you very much for sharing your insights. So now let me ask with Professor Dr. Orial. So as you say that there are obviously certain challenges in the organizational level as a leader. So you need to be the manager to manage all those challenges, and this pandemic is creating one more extra very great challenge. So regarding this, what kinds of professional development opportunities are provided to the professional, to the academics, or to the faculties in the context of Pokhara University under your leadership? So it's your time now.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you, Babita. Yes. I would like to say that a leader is a change agent, and uh, leaders set the need to change to meet the new informations. Leaders' function has not only to produce change, and but to set the direction of that change. I'm here not to only change the traditional modes of this running this university. I would like to introduce new activities, new plans. But before that, I should have legislative and social context and understanding with the people of the society and stakeholders. This would be my first role. Uh, and ability, I should have ability to work interdepartmentally and with board collaboratively sharing approaches. And as I know, our teachers do not have adequate training on sharing experiences, and they are always looking towards the higher authority. They should give us all these things, but they can promote their professional qualities by themselves also. They are not trying to find out the ways. And I also like to work about in this direction. And financial aspects and auditing should be very keen factors that affect the university and activities, and understanding of technologies also. Because of this very beautiful city, we have, yes, uh, uh, ample opportunity of indigeneity and its project works. But we are confined within the given textbooks, and we are also involved in project works. We are trying to to make our students more involved in project works and innovative actions. See, unless and until we make our students more involved in all these dynamic activities, innovative activities, they will go to the line of the political interference, and they will do more things. And in this direction, yes, actually, we are thinking uh, to organize seminars, workshops, in service, peer service, and induction type of workshop. No, teachers are appointed, they are sent to their class, and they do not have any type of induction training, how to manage with each students, how to do. They were learners and entered into the classroom being a good learners. That okay, they should be have adequate knowledge. Yes, all these things. And our teachers, I'm thinking to to make their involvement in action research, classroom-based research, and journals, keeping journals, okay, making portfolios, all these things. And during this pandemic also, we have tried some project works, but it has been very difficult to us. And we're trying institutional expansion also. Yes, we have very clumsy rooms, very small library for all the full faculties, and all things will not support academic, upliftment of academic qualities of the universities. And I think we are thinking, to work collaboratively with other universities also to share experiences and uplift the quality of the teachers. This was this time. Okay.
Okay, thank you very much for your very wonderful ideas and the really good initiatives you did in your in the context of your university. So, as I already promised to all the audience that we will address your questions to the panelists, and I request all the participants. So, if you have any questions to the panelists, you can type there in the chat box, and or if you want to speak out, and you can ask to the panelists. So you will have the time. So for that question answer session, so may I request Mr. Rishi Sharma to cooperate with the audience queries to the panelists. It's over to you, Rishi sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Babita ma'am, for a great discussion. You are very respected and valuable panelist today, and I see some of the questions raised by audience, and they're very valuable, very important question. Question is, how do you incentivize faculty and administration to engage in staff development? Actually, it is the question related to university. So I would like to put this question, Professor uh, Leknath Sharma. How do you incentivize faculty and administration to engage the staff development? Please, Professor Sharma.
Thank you, Rishiji. As we talk about the professional development of university faculties, they need to have certain competencies, content competencies, pedagogical competencies, assessment and evaluation sort of competencies, and some sort of emotional intelligence related aptitudes and attitude type of competencies to make their delivery, to make their educating approach better. So far, to make the professional development happens in the university, actually in our policy document also, and in our annual activities also, we have created small fund for conducting small scale research to the faculty. Also, we have a provision of the participation in national and international seminars. So our faculties, when they develop their papers, they can go to participate in seminar and conferences, but this number may not be very high because we don't have that much scale of budget to do. But however, we have assigned some budget for that parts also. And also we organize training and workshop for the professional needs. That is, that training and the workshop would be related to their need-based sort of training, and that could be related to technology or pedagogy, because we are in different mode. We are in online and distance mode, and we have to support everything through e-learning and e-assessment sort of thing. So we organize training and workshop. And actually, when talking about the professional development in higher education, actually, especially three approaches are taken. One is training and a workshop sort of approach. Another one is research and reflection sort of approach. And another one is seminar and conferences like approaches. So we are using these three approaches, and we are providing some funds to these activities too. Also, we have some sorts of international collaboration. Right now, we are working with 2 international collaborative projects, and that has also included this professional development sort of activities. So we are very open to make these international collaboration sort of things to develop professional for professional development of our faculties.
Thank you very much.
So
Thank you very much. A very good message from Nepal Open University, and its practice for incentivizing the administration and for professional development. And the same issue maybe the question for Pokhara University. So I would like to request Professor Aryal for your views about the practice of incentivizing the faculty and education in your university. Professor Ariane.
Thank you for the questions. First of all, our teachers should have opportunities to participate in workshops, seminars, debate, and regular monitoring sessions and self-study practices. Okay? And this type of activities, I think this university is not enjoying so much. I'm trying to manage all these things. One thing. The other is that there should be given adequate weightage in annual rating and vertical evaluation of the university faculty based on their research activities, based on their publication of journals, based on their participation in workshop and seminars. But here, what uh, teachers have in their yes, in-service type of training, they are implementing, and they are not thinking. Not all, but some of the teachers are doing very best, trying to incorporate, incorporate and use innovative ideas. But my thinking is that there should be regular workshops, seminars, and publication of journals, okay, and activities, innovation activities. And recently, we have started to implement courses on entrepreneurship education. Now, we are also thinking to provide pedagogical courses to our university teachers. They should know how to prepare, plan, renew, review, and re-implement the program, change the program, okay, to cope with the challenges, brought by the 21st century situation or globalization. So we are thinking to develop some activities based on exchange programs and collaborative activities and innovative activities, and practice makes the teacher perfect. And our students should have more practical activities. So we are thinking so and planning in this way.
Thank you very much, Professor Arial, for your very important input about the practice of Cochrane University. And one of the important questions is raised by Hiraman Tamang sir to Dr. Josephina. Dr. Josephina, actually, could you explain the servant leadership, or are there any strategy for promoting servant leadership? Is there any cultural factors to engage servant leadership? Could you please explain about servant leadership and strategies of it? It is a question raised by Hiraman Tamang, Josephina, Dr. Josephina.
Thank you. I'm happy to explain it further. And I also want to just add a couple of things, items to what was just spoken about in terms of incentives for faculty. At the University of California, Berkeley, our chancellor keeps initiating opportunities for faculty to be recognized. There are awards and faculty recognitions, and that makes the faculty very pleased. And we also offer release time so that way they can, get more activity that they want to do, like for research or for volunteer work. Anyway, the servant leadership style there's many, many books that have been written about servant leadership. What it basically means is that the person who has a servant leadership style really cares about service to their institution, to their students or faculty, and to their staff. And by that means that they will put the students and the faculty and the students and the constituencies first when they make the administrative decisions. They'll have collaborative meetings. They'll have this goal of transparency with decisions that they're making, so that they really put the thoughts and the needs of the constituencies, and that could include your alumni, your board, your community, your staff, your faculty, and of course your students. And when you put them first before yourself, that's called a servant leadership style. That's really, culturally, it has many different meanings in different countries. But in the United States, that's what we mean when we say a servant leadership style. Although the Rotarian, for those of you on the call here that are Rotarians, the Rotarian motto is international, and that's service above self. That's another example of here's people that are in corporations and in businesses that say service above self is what's really important. It means not being selfish. It means not putting yourself first. It doesn't mean that you don't take care of yourself. You take care of yourself, but that you really look to see how can you improve the quality of life for others.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Josephina, for your very valuable input in the question raised by audience. And one question is raised by Pushparaj Kaurel to Professor Sharma. What strategies has the Nepal Open University developed, applied and followed to differentiate between hardworking teachers and those who just wait for work, do not contribute much in the academics? What are the differences between those types of professionals in Nepal Open University? This question is for Professor Sharma.
I think this is a very, very interesting question. And those who are working very hard and contributing a lot, certainly they will be incentivized by different modes. Maybe they can get more opportunity in participating such activities like international conference, national conferences, and other things also, whatever our rules allow. And those who are not contributing, and then and if I know, they will come under the actions, because we have already paid for the faculties for certain works, because this is a source of contract between institution and the faculties, and the faculties, if they do not carry out their duties as the contract there, certainly they will be under action under the rules of Nepal Open University. So it's a very direct consequence of those who are not working very well. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Sharma, for your very valuable answer to the questions. And we have several questions raised by audience, but there is a time limit to conduct this panel discussion, so that other questions raised by audience will be answered in the website of STAR conference, and I will get the answer there. Thank you very much for distinguished panelists, very respected personalities, by providing the answer of the audience raised by in panel discussion. And now wrap up the session, and to provide the summary of the session, I would like to hand over this panel discussion to Babita Prajuli ma'am. Over to you, Babita Prajuli ma'am.
Thank you so much, Rishi sir. So we have about 10-15 minutes, about 10 minutes to wrap up the session. So I'd like to welcome to the final stage of the panel discussion. I'd like to ask again with Dr. Josephina. What final piece of message do you want to leave to us, especially that will be very useful and suitable in the Nepalese context, especially to strengthening the leadership in higher education? So you have about 2 minutes time, please.
Okay, I can do it in 2 minutes. Well, first of all, it's such a great honor to be here with all of you. And I'm very intrigued by what's happening in Nepal. I've done some studying on the universities there, the political situation, the social situation. And my message to all of you that are listening would be an invitation to join us at UC Berkeley. Now they were doing everything virtual, because UC Berkeley has a lot of free online types of classes and sessions. And the Center for Studies in Higher Education, where my academy is based out of, I'm happy to send you the links so that way you could benefit from all these free sessions on crisis management, on the pandemic, on leadership, academic freedom, you name it, we have it. And so I would invite you to listen in on those sessions. And I sent along the brochure for the Executive Leadership Academy to you. You have the brochure. I would encourage you to look at it. And if you want to participate in that program, you would get priority, because I'm now very invested in your success here in Nepal, your universities. You would get priority for admission, and then you'd be able to attend these classes virtually. And whatever you learn, you can bring back to your universities and teach others. So that's my party message to you. Thank you.
Oh, wow. Thank you very much. Then we will love to receive the link from you, and I hope all the very valued participants also will be benefited from this. So for now, with the concluding remarks, and I'd like to hear from Dr. Sharma. Let me connect some of the time and again rumors in the context of Nepal. That means the universities in Nepal, that there are some of the organizational challenges, administrative challenges, and some kind of a kind of mesh situation also comes, we hear in the news regarding the different universities of Nepal. I think it would be that means a very good chance to hear from you that how do you evaluate the role of party politics to be in the leadership, so especially in the academic field in the context of Nepal, so in the context of university.
Thank you, Babitaji. Actually, those who are getting leadership in universities, I think they are not the party cadres, and by the legal provisions, the government has to appoint someone. But after getting appointment as the vice chancellor or dean or whatever position they are, they have to work giving priority to the institution, and then taking that instrument is the institutional act, laws, bylaws, and regulations. So if leadership do that way, I think the political sort of issues that we are raising and the politics is hindering higher education and every education sector, polluting everything, that questions may not come in future. And other important thing is that what we have in our region, I have to say, we are very much interested to introduce regulatory bodies, regulatory provisions to ensure quality in education and quality in everything. And let's prioritize on supporting bodies and incentivizing provision to the leadership as well as the faculties. So we should be converting, we should change our attitude, we should change our beliefs that we should start from supporting and then only come to regulating. So that would be my final remarks. And concerning to Nepal Open University, we have a very old 1970s related beliefs related to open and distance learning, especially open universities. People say the open university don't need permanent tenure faculties and just the casual faculties can work, but I do not agree on that. And also research has already been established the fact that the permanent tenure faculties are necessary to ensure even academic freedom, academic quality, access, equity, whatever we talk about the higher education related issues raised over. So this is my final remarks. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Sharma. So, with the in the same question, so I like to hear the remarks from Professor Dr. Orial. So, what is the context of Pokhara University, and including your final remarks? So you can just share with us.
Thank you for the question. It is very relevant question. As I have also explained in my previous presentation, previous discussion with you all, I think politics is a national system. Any one of the conscious people have their own politics. Thinking that I in my first lecture in this university told that I may be recommended by any parties, by any group of political system, but I will work for the welfare and quality education of the students of this university. I will be guided by the rules and regulations of this university. Okay, any other name I will not do. And this has been become a problem to some of the persons, stakeholders in this university till now. Okay, just I can remind you, my office is locked and open, broken and locked. This system, I've already told our uh, Prime Minister, Chancellor of Pokhara University, that this locking system, lockdown and open, and all these systems should be cut because there's no solution. We should see, we should learn from the Western world, from other developed countries. We can debate, we can have discussions, we can have students' unions, and we also have teachers' union. Then we can discuss among them and get a solution. This pressurization, we should not give priority to these non-academic activities. One thing is that. The other thing is that, yes, our teachers and students should have opportunity to be involved in different professional development activities so that they may not have more time to disturb the university events or university activities. And this is the way that I like to say. And we should have one debate, dialogue, reflections, and sharing sessions. This will promote us to understand each other, work collaboratively, and achieve the goal as mentioned in our constitution of our university. Thank you so much.
Oh, well, thank you so much. So we have 3 more minutes to wrap up. So I'd like to ask Josefina within few seconds. So would you tell about the practice of the politics, party politics, or what kinds of other kinds of politics? So especially that interfere in the leadership. So as your experience, so we will love to hear in the final stage.
Now I will share with you, first of all, I want to thank you for being a fabulous moderator. And I also want to thank Ed James for the invitation. When you're working with politics, and you know that right now we're in the midst of a lot of politics in the United States, it's very important. We've been taught to try to stay neutral, because as an academic, and it's like a sacred privilege to be a professor, to be someone who's leading, who's a vice chancellor or a chancellor. It's like a sacred privilege. And so it's really, really important for us to try to stay neutral if we can. Now, oftentimes we can't stay neutral. And especially when there's a lot of social unrest and unhappiness. But in terms of political acumen, always being very careful to be objective and to try to be fair to everybody.
Thank you so much, Dr. Josefina. So since we are running out of the time, let me wrap up this discussion, very live discussion, with the main insight that in this very adverse situation, you all are as the leader of a particular organization or university. So we are very thankful to hear your all the experiences that you have managed to put out your roles to uplift the physical academic development of the organization. And Dr. Josefina, thank you so much for your sharing that as a trainer to those people who are interested to have the position, leadership position. Thank you. I really salute we all the audience, including me. We salute all of your dedication, commitment for your leadership. So all the very best for upcoming future. Keep on signing and keep on inspiring other people who want to be in the leadership position and who really want to make a change in the sector of higher education. So thank you so much to all the valued and dear participants for your patience and very active participation. We express our sincere thanks to all the respected panelists, all the respected academics for your valuable time, effort, and insights in this live discussion. Stay safe, take care, have a very great time ahead. Thank you. Namaste.
Thank you,
Thank you, Babita ji. And then Rishi ji, you were actually very, very bright persons to conduct such interaction program. Thank you very much. Keep it up.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
you.
Thank you, Josephina, Dr. Josephina. Thank you. Have a great time.
It's 2:30 in the morning in California, so I'm going to go out and enjoy. See who's outside at 2:30 in the morning.
We really were very thankful for your time, especially it's the time, so it's almost midnight.
It's too early. It's too early.
Thank you, Joseph. You gave time and then enlightened us a lot from your experience of a very good leadership. Thank you. We'll be in touch with you in the future too.
I really enjoyed hearing all of your comments and insights. Bless you all. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Take care.
Namaste.
Bye.
And namaste.
Babitaji, now we have immediately after this we've got break. That's the longest break at this conference. Dr. Keith is probably online, so he's coming with his documentary.
So yeah.
And then after we've got, can you inform? We've got panel discussion after this, the last session of this first day conference, day one.
Okay. Okay. So now I think it's the time it's the break time, and it's the time to give a lot of fun about Nepali culture and music to all the participants. So we have here our cultural director, Dr. Kate Wright. So you have really energized all the participants. Now it's the time, it's your time now. So we will enjoy. Okay, it's over to you now.
Greetings and namaste to my distinguished stars.
Again, you are welcome. Namaste.
Yes, thank you. I just want to, before, since we had just a slight technical issue, on the previous, I just want to make sure that I'm going to share a screen. Do you see a gentleman right now?
Yeah. We can see.
Okay, excellent. Okay, I just wanted to make sure. This segment the break will begin with Dr. Namchonsky discussing the pertinent content with respect to Nepal and the current eventualities of the year 2020. Then we will continue with some of the advancements in transportation in Nepal and feature different genres of both traditional and contemporary dance and music. I want to thank you for watching.
Nepal lies between two Asian giants, China and India. Both are economic and military power of Asia. One claims to be socialist while other a democrat. In this context, how can a small state like Nepal survive? What should be Nepal's foreign policy?
The one that claims to be socialist isn't socialist. The one that claims to be democratic has elements of democracy, but they're being demolished by the current government. The current Modi government is essentially dismantling Indian secular democracy and turning it into a racist state. So yes, Nepal is in a difficult position. The two countries are, in fact, almost at war right now. Unfortunately, the war has been over, the Ladakh area, Oksai-Chin and so on. The war has been kept to a low level so far, but it could burst out. It's what Nepal has to do is take care of its internal problems as best as possible and try to remain neutral when the elephants are fighting. The elephants are fighting. It's not an easy position to be in.
Yes.
बड़ा हिन्दू धर्म को आस्था केन्द्र जनकपुर यहाँ जानकी टेम्पल एकदम फेमस हो त्यहाँ दर्शन गर्न त परपरबाट मान्छेहरू आउँछन् त्यसले त धेरै यहाँ तीर्थयात्रीहरू बढ्छ र यो ट्रेन सञ्चालन भयो भने यहाँ केही हदसम्म महँगाई पनि कन्ट्रोल गर्न सक्छन् किनभने त्यहाँबाट अहिले ट्रान्सपोर्टेसन गर्नलाई घुमेर आउनुपर्छ यहाँबाट त इन्डियाबाट आएको सामान त जनकपुरसम्म कुर्थासम्म त डाइरेक्ट आउनु
of connecting Nepal by railway trains, India has, overtaken China, obviously, because they have already laid down the tracks, and the whole railway system is going to function within a couple of months. Whereas the Chinese plan is still in a plan way. It is still in the map on the paper.
पश्चिम रेल छुक 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 गोडेको सपना देखे मायालु तिमी सितै रिङरङ घुमेको
माया नै माया छ तिम्रो नाउँमा तिमीलाई भेट्न आउँदैछु तिम्रो गाउँमा प्रीति नै प्रीति छ तिम्रो ठाउँमा तिमीलाई भेट्न आउँदैछु तिम्रो गाउँमा तिमीलाई भेट्न आउँदैछु तिम्रो गाउँमा तिमीलाई कुटुमा कुटु
सुपारी दाना
कुटुमा कुटु कुटुमा कुटु
सुपारी दाना
कुटुमा कुटु
हेर्दामा जिउ जान खाइ लाग्दो जागिरी मर्दा बलियो इमानदारी केटोलाई जो बन दिने मन थियो खैने चुरोट खान्छौ कि दाँतै कालो छ दाँतै कालो छ हजुर ओठै कालो छ दिदीको मगनी भइसक्यो मेरै पालो छ दिदीको मगनी भइसक्यो मेरै पालो छ
पृथ्वी नारायण शाहको पाला काटेर सुकाते शोषकको छाला राणा र शाहले फेरि बिगारे मुखिया जमिनदार हक्लाउन थाले यो मेरो जमिन यो मेरो कारिन्दा छोडेर सबै लोक मेरो जमिनमा धक्काको शोषकले सयौं शताब्दी देशभरि उम्रेका रोगी मन लाग्दी मिलेर भाइले आउन दे छेरेर कटुमा थुम्किन दे हिजोको चल्ला आजको बोटी सन्किने हेरोला सन्किन दे छैन तैले जाल फाल्दैमा बोकेर दौडिरहेको छु म नयाँ सोच सङ्घर्ष गर्न आएको हुँ गर्दिन मया मोज त्यसैले म केही गरेर खान्छु नत्र मरेर जान्छु बरु लडेर बाँच्छु अघि बढेर हाँस्छु मेरो नयाँ सोच नयाँ विचार छ वरिपरि स्यालहरू आयो मलाई चितार्न त्यही पनि उठ्छु म दुःखलाई बुझ्नु छ आफ्नो जिम्मेवारीको अगाडि
बढी आनन्दले आफै भित्रको फिल जति अप्ठ्यारो यो लाइफमा भए पनि हुनुपर्छ निकै संवेदनशील पर्दैछु झिल आहारा ताकेर बसेका छन् यहाँ गिद्ध र चिल खुट्टा तान्नेहरू कति हुन् कति यहाँ दुखी रहन्छ सबको चित्त र दिल पैसा त कमौलास धेरैले बौलौलास जिन्दगी भरलाई नै तिर्ने हो बिल सबसँग हाँसिँदै हाँस्दै नै बाँचिँदै म भन्छु शत्रुसँग नि मिल लाइफ इज रियल
Rapper, psychedelic user, getting many views up. Everybody watching, going real crazy. Everybody laughing, everybody asking. आर्थिक परिस्थिति जस्तै काठका रुखहरू म लाग्छ यी नेताहरूलाई खुल्ला मचमा सुट गरू तर हिंसा मूर्खता हो त्यो कुरामा बुझ्दछु त्यसैले परिवर्तन ल्याउने त्यो क्रान्ति लाग्दछु र लड्नेछु म निकै नक्की ठिक भएन चुप हामीलाई फुट्न होइन चुप्न छ चुप्न होइन उठ्न छ डरदेखि लुक्न होइन सिर उठाइ चुप्न छ हामीलाई फुट्न होइन चुप्न छ कसैले सोध्यो भने म भन्दा खतरा ऱ्यापर कोही पनि छैन भन्दै यिनीहरू जब राति राति छोड्दै बस्थे म पेपर पेन च्यापी रामहरू कोर्दै बस्थे आफैसँग बोल्दै बस्ने पारा अति भव्य जति पाइला अघि साँच्छु त्यति टाढा लक्ष्य हार मान्न सक्थे तर मन गर्छ मरि हत्ते परिपक्व बन्न जो पनि ऱ्यापर बन्न खोजा देख्दा छक्क
मेरो नाम यो हो सत्य बोल्न मलाई के को त्रास मेरो खास प्राथमिकता तेरो नाश होइन मेरो आफ्नो सपनालाई पहिला आत्मसात गर्नु छ तेरो साथ किन बकवास खेल खेलेर मेरो सुगम समयलाई बर्बाद गरौँ मलाई मेरो प्रेरणा बन्नु छ मेरो आकांक्षाको तह जहिले सगरमाथा भन्दा माथि हुन्छ हारे भने मैले के गरौँ त हरेक हार नयाँ आविष्कार हरेक हारलाई बहिष्कार
हरू चारैतिर जम्मा मलेखुको जोइन्टले आँखा मेरो टम्म फस्दैछु त्यो केटीको मोहनीको भ्रममा बोतलको साथ अनि होटलको खाट बाँडे नजिकिने क्रममा मान्छे म बिन्दास कस्तो लाग्यो कान्छे तिमीलाई हाउडे मेरो अन्दाज तिम्रो लागि गइदिन्छु कलियुगमा वनवास तिमी यति हट छौ कि घामले लिन्छ तिमीबाट सनबार जब मग मग बास्ता सरी
You're either dead or dedicated in this path that you're headed, yeah. And I'm speaking from the core of my heart. It's hard to live with the light without ignoring the dark. But I try my best cause that's the only thing I can do. I like to thank you, Jermaine, for setting a good example. Every time I bump Forest Hills Drive, I tell myself
नराम्रो गीत नराम्रो दिनमा लेख्छु नराम्रो मानी राम्रो देख्न खोज्छु भेट्छु कोही थिएन सिकाउने मैले आफै सिक्न पाएँ आफूले आफैलाई आफू जस्तो बनाए त थिइनस् मेरो लागि मलाई गाह्रो पर्दा अहिले म सुन्दिन तैले मसँग बोल्दा हेर म तिम्रो सबभन्दा फरक छु र्यापर मात्र होइन एक दिन संसारलाई
देखिको मिल्ने साथी हाम्रो मित्रता अरु सम्बन्ध भन्दा माथि हामी सहर घुम्न जान्थ्यौं राति राति भागी भागी घरमा आमा बुवालाई ढाटी मर्न र मार्न तयार एकअर्काको लागि सधैँ सँगै बस्थ्यौं स्कुल पढ्दा हामी दुबई नजाने यदि एउटा बिरामी जे पनि बाँड्ने हाम्रो राम्रो थियो पानी
थै भन सुर्के थैले
iPhone सुर्के थैली iPhone सुर्के थैली
Mission complete. भन सुर्के थैले
सृष्टि कहाँ जान लाग्यो पढ्नु पर्दैन
धेरै पढेर डाक्टर इन्जिनियर बन्नु है डान्स गरे केही पाउँदैन नानी हेर हेर छोरी मान्छे भएर घरको काम नगरिकन नाच्न मात्र जानेछ है
समात्मा रहरको कथा थोत्रो रित्तो एकाएक गुम्सिएको साझा वस्तु एउटा कुनामा डोलाउँदै बित्यो जिन्दगानी त तिम्रै अगाडि ओइलिँदैछ के गर्यो आखिर खुसीको लागि सपनाको घर तिम्रो एका देशमा ठडाल्थ्यो उड्दैछौ आज आफ्नै सपनालाई निर्दोष तिमी अताहै नसोची जाऊ हराऊ खुसीमा तृप्त तिमीलाई नै पाऊ हेर न आफूलाई
Nepali dance is an unaffected folk art, neither wildly athletic nor too subtle. It depicts activities such as work and courtship. 150 dancers creatively expressed their cultural diversity by showcasing 4 dances.
Okay, so that concludes. I'm pleased that so many had so many positive comments, and certainly I've enjoyed with the wonderful history and the wonderful, immense diversity of both intellectual and expressive communication that Nepal represents. And this concludes the break, and look forward to the continuance of the conference. Thank you for the opportunity. Namaste.
Thank you, Dr. Wright, for this diverse music connection in this conference. And the conference give the different taste with this musical arrangement. That's why we did the unique conference in the sense. Right now, we are moving towards the end of the session. We have 3 minutes more to wait to start the new session. That will start at 5 p.m. our time. And namaste and good evening from Nepal, and good morning to all panelists, because all panelists are from US for this time. So before starting this session, this panel discussion on school and university teaching in transition. Basically, in the phase of this COVID-19 pandemic, every field with education is in the transition. Then what the situation was and will be or is, that will be discussed for the school education and the higher education as well. The previous panels were highly related towards the higher education, and this panel talks about both school education and the higher education. There will be the discussion of the higher education situations and the school education situations in this situation, and how could we deal with this transition. For this, I would like to welcome to all the respected delegates with the valuable panelists and valued members presenting over here. At the first, I would like to introduce the panelists for this session. And the theme of our panel is school and university teaching in transition. For this, we have 3 panelists from US. Professor Dr. Jean Hammond is the professor in the program in writing and rhetoric in Stony Brook University, and has been contributing in different parts of the world with numerous valuable works. Similarly, there we find the numerous academic administration and leadership positions, including a chair of Department of English at his home program, and also chair of English department while he was at University of Maryland. That's why he had experience in the field of teaching and learning excellences. Similarly, we have another respected guest, Dr. Muriel Howard, and President of American Association of State Colleges and Universities. And Dr. Muriel Howard served as a President of American Association of State Colleges and Universities from August 2009 to July 2018. She is the first African American to lead one of the 6 presidentially based higher education associations in Washington, D.C. And we get the more contribution towards the field of this. And similarly, we have another distinguished guest from US again. He is Dr. Krishna Bista. Dr. Krishna Bista is Associate Professor of Higher Education at Morgan State University, Maryland. And Dr. Bista is the founding editor of the Journal of International Students, a quarterly publication on international higher education. His recent books include Higher Education in Nepal, published by Routledge, Inequalities in Study Abroad, and Student Mobility. So with this panelist here, we discuss about the school and university teaching in transition with the ideas of challenges, and we will identify the strategies leader could adapt to respond to traditional classroom education in developing countries. So to proceed this session, I would like to request Mr. Admaram Bhattarai, OEM, and I would like to request him to proceed in the sessions.
Namaskar and good evening, all my distinguished panelists and guests. It's our pleasure to be with you. We are discussing on school and university teaching and transition. I think we are in the period of COVID-19. That's why we need to focus on these. We are almost 9 months into the COVID-19 pandemic. There is continued disruption in school and university teaching learning process. On the other hand, we are optimistic that some of the countries have started to provide vaccine against COVID-19. By the result, we are sure that we will be in a new normal to new future. I would like to say new normal to new future. The school and university teaching will be transitional period at this time. Therefore, we are getting wonderful ideas from the distinguished guests from the globe who are present here on opportunities and challenges of school and universities teaching and in transition. And it's our opportunity to be with you all distinguished guests. Therefore, I would like to request to share the wonderful ideas on school and university teaching in transition. I would like to first request to share the perspectives on this theme to Professor Hammond. Professor Hammond, your turn, please. You all are provided 10 minutes to share your ideas in this issue. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Atma and Yadu. It's an honor to be here with Professor Howard, Professor Bista. And I hope you find what I have to say useful. Here we go. Let's see. We are all living through a year so far in which some of you have lost your jobs. Many of us have less money to work with, and some of us have lost friends and relatives to the plague that's sweeping the world. At the same time, many of us are working harder and more conscientiously than ever and helping our families, friends, and students get through this difficult time and come out on the other side with what I will make the focus of my talk, and that is hope and enthusiasm. That's the title I've given to my talk, Hope and Enthusiasm. One of the great cultural battles now being fought out in country after country around the globe is that between globalism and selfishness, a selfishness that often disguises itself under the name of populism, or in the case of my country, under the name of America First. We in the United States have been at least moderately interested in globalism ever since World War II, but we have in the last 4 years, at least politically, taken a deviation from globalization into the selfishness of America First. Other countries have reverted into this selfishness as well. There are always school administrators and public officials and company executives who will pursue their narrow self-interest to the detriment of the people they should be serving. But with the advent of social media, the attempts of these leaders to suppress openness and the will of the people can't gain popular support as easily as they used to. In the US and in many other places in the globe, the healthy pushback to the policies of selfishness has been even stronger than the original force of selfishness. With young people, indeed all the people of the world, sharing ideas exponentially more often on social media, we have reacted to the concept of America First with the Me Too movement that took off starting with the Women's March on Washington the day after Donald Trump's inaugural, and the Black Lives Matter movement that spread quickly around the US and even to some extent around the world. The Black Lives Matter movement has sustained its energy despite efforts to make law and order an attractive conservative alternative to it. Most important to our group, that is the people here at this conference, is that despite administrative and political pressure, teachers on the ground remain more free than most people, just as users of social media are more free than most people, to voice and share and execute our opinions. At a STAR board meeting back in April via Zoom, we had an exhilarating exchange of ideas from all time zones, rich in ideas from powerful women and powerful people of color of all ages and ethnicities, with excellent ideas for what we can do and should be doing as cooperating, internationally minded scholars. I happily put my hope in us, multicultural STAR scholars. You are the ones who inspire me to be speaking right now. Similarly, I am inspired by the 50 18-year-old students from 25 different countries that I am now teaching this semester at Stony Brook University. I would put my students in charge of the world starting tomorrow and be confident that the world would be better run than it is now. Like all of you attending this conference, my students are hoping to shape the humane world. Judging by their research papers alone, my students expect to see progress that can help solve issues of food distribution, climate change, overpopulation, truly adequate wages, affordable housing, jobs with the possibility of at least half supporting a family, and equity issues of all kinds. The historical record is not exemplary on this issue of sharing wealth and sharing responsibility. Leaders have generally preferred to enrich themselves, leaving only bread and circuses for the common people, to using their power to create genuinely equitable societies. We all know the names of our successful violent men: Alexander the Great, Genghis Khan, Napoleon, Vladimir Lenin, but too few of us know the names of those like Archbishop Desmond Tutu, Toni Morrison, Emile Zola, Jonathan Swift, Thomas Sankara, and John Lewis, who have fought tirelessly for justice. Replace the statues that are coming down in the United States with statues of these true leaders for justice. Lenin is a particularly cogent example of a man whose words supported the people, but whose policies decidedly did not. As we proceed, we need to think, when we do our paid work and our volunteer work, unlike Lenin, about people, about individuals, about the people at this conference, even more so about the people who have, through their life circumstances, been denied the opportunity to come to this conference. To give you a few examples, I'd like to mention some of the people who help me think globally and who inspire me every day that I teach. The first example that comes to mind is Archbishop Tutu, kind to the core, but also committed to the core, whom I met in 2007 on the International Education Program semester at sea. Next, I think of 20 boys I met playing cricket in a park in Dhaka. I was walking by this park and there were boys playing cricket and there were people walking through the park, and the game and the people walking were all intersecting with each other, and nobody seemed to be the least bit bothered by the intersection. And then the boys saw me, and being obviously European or American, they invited me into their game and taught me how to bowl and taught me how to hit with the bat. And they were just as gracious as could be for 15 or 20 minutes. Then I think about a motorcyclist, about 23, that I met on the island of Madura, just off the island of Java in Indonesia. I had taken a bus out to Madura in order to find out what that island was like, because part of a novel that I like very much, This Earth of Mankind, takes place out there. And when I got off at a small little town, some people started harassing me, as is very common all over the world, to try to buy some things. But a young man on a motorcycle said, "Hop on." And he put me on the back of his motorcycle, and we rode off to his house a couple of miles away. And he introduced me to his wife and his 2 children, and then brought me back to the bus so that I could get back to Surabaya, where I was staying. Then I think of a young girl about 8 years old that I met in Myanmar, in the Bagan fields of temples. And she was trying to sell souvenirs. And she looked at me and asked me where I was from. And I said, the United States. She was able to speak English pretty well. And she said, oh, I like your president, Barack Obama. He's the same color that I am. And she pointed to her arm and showed me the color of her arm. Another group that I met that inspires me is a group of 10-year-old boys in Chittagong in Bangladesh. I had heard from some of the teachers that we had been working with that the young people in Chittagong are often let out of school on Friday afternoons to go scoop shrimp out of the mud of the Bay of Bengal, and they sell them for a penny a piece. And so I went to Chittagong in order to try to see who these boys were. And sure enough, along the beach, there were a bunch of little huts, and the boys invited me into one of these huts. And there were about 6 or 7 boys in a small little space, and they were doing their accounts for the week on the shrimp that they had made. So they looked like little accountants working at their jobs. And I think of 3 seriously committed Iranian women that I taught in the New York Linguistics Institute in St. Petersburg, Russia, who at lunchtime every day talked about all the small improvements being made in women's lives in Iran due to women's activism in Iran. This is not a story that gets to America very often. And I think of a family that I stayed with for a few days in the Dominican Republic. They had relatives living up and down the street. The houses were all about 3 feet from the street. And so as you got up in the morning and as you came back from work in the afternoon, you stopped and saw all your relatives for a minute or two and got a bunch of hugs to get the day going with. And last but not least, I think of a graduate assistant, Mary Jacobus, in 1971, who had the courage to teach discussion classes at Oxford University, when the only respectable academic practice was old men lecturing in academic gowns. She is now Professor Emerita of English at Cornell University, and her method of teaching has been spreading throughout the world. To do our progressive, respect-based education, we need to always keep in mind these individuals and the comparable individuals whom you have met in your lives, and for their sake, teach students to recognize and resist lies, bullying, and sneering, not only from their political and religious leaders, but from their teachers and school administrators. By contrast, I think the key to giving students ideas respect is not only our goodwill, but teaching them writing and critical thinking. Most crucially, teaching them the difference between facts and inferences. What helps our students most is noticing that their papers should include, first of all, facts. Secondly, the inferences that earlier researchers have drawn from those facts. And most important, the inferences that our students draw from both the facts and the inferences drawn by the so-called experts. This gives our students the well-informed voices that they deserve and that can begin to change society. Then, lest we begin to believe that facts and inferences are not political, we have to be very much alert to positionality, where we are positioned in the political power structure. What counts as knowledge? Who has the power to determine what is considered to be knowledge? There's an outstanding Indonesian book, This Earth of Mankind, by Prameja Toer, that raises precisely the positionality of power in the Dutch-administered East Indies in 1898. And of course, there are many, many, many books who do this. One huge illustration of positionality is the historical accident we now live in, and that is with English as being the language of power. This is probably not something we are going to change. The momentum in its direction is currently overwhelming, but we should never be arrogant or complacent about it. English just happened to be the most powerful language at the time of the technological revolution that fostered globalism. The English language via colonialism is still at the top of the language hierarchy. But Paulo Freire, in The Pedagogy of the Oppressed, reminded us that we need to be reminded over and over again of our positionality. We need to help students reflect on the education they're getting and the ways in which it is influenced by the social circumstances they live in. Surprisingly, much of the power to foster globalization lies with us who teach in the humanities subjects. Our curriculum is flexible, and whatever we teach, our students will assume to be normal. I was chair of the English department, or humanities department at a high school and middle school that I taught in for 15 years in Washington, DC. And we were given the responsibility of changing the curriculum. And I told the other teachers as we did this that we can put whatever we want to into that curriculum, and whatever we put in, the students will think will be normal. It was an extraordinary amount of power, and I hope we used it well. If unhealthy or unhelpful subjects have been taught in the past in our departments, we have the power to offer more honorable alternative curricula and to teach students a new normal. We have a lot of work to do, but it is exciting to see it being done every day. I'd like to end where I began, with hope, quoting Martin Luther King. The arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice. Thank you very much. Namaste.
Thank you so much, Professor Hammond, for wonderful ideas. Thank you again. Being not delay, I would like to request to Professor Ward for her perspectives on school and university teaching in transition. Thank you. Professor, you are on mute.
Well, good morning or good afternoon, whatever. And greetings to everyone. It's quite early here in the States. It's my pleasure to be able to join this conversation, to talk a little about what's going on and what trends I see in terms of what colleges and universities need to be doing to help teachers make this transition into the whole mode of delivery of virtual learning. We all know that globally, colleges and universities, as well as pre through K teachers and faculty, have had to jump into the virtual world of teaching and learning with both feet as a result of the pandemic. To aid and sustain students, institutions have been responsive, I believe, and shown great flexibility and creativity to provide learning experiences amid a host of health, safety, and educational challenges. First and foremost, institutions here have tried to ensure that all students have access to virtual learning by buying them computers and/or tablets. Electronic connectivity has also been a challenge, and students without it or who have special learning or geographical rural challenges have often been allowed to connect to virtual learning by attending it at their school. Some institutions have implemented hybrid teaching models, particularly in K through 12, where some of the students are studying at home, online, and others are in the classroom. And this has been presented some real challenges for our faculty. Moving from traditional teaching to online learning requires institutions to address the common challenge of building faculty and staff capacity to integrate technology and to manage and facilitate their online offerings. Some faculty have and institutions have successfully provided online learning as a choice or an institutional model, particularly in our for-profit schools. However, the majority of teachers and professors do not comfortably engage with educational technology when exposed to it for the first time due to various environmental and cultural differences between online and traditional classroom teaching. So a good place to begin is to support and help teachers examine their view and understanding of the role of online education. A few examples of differences and changes they must address and embrace include: what is the change in role of the faculty? Online education is seen as student-centered education, while traditional education is regarded as trending towards instructor-centered, with the faculty member having complete control. We are asking these instructors now to become more of a facilitator, or as we often say, to become the sage on the stage. Changing the role of learners is also critical. Learners will transition from traditional passive classroom learners into hopefully more active online learners. Integrating new technologies is a big difference. Staff need to learn how to make the most appropriate use of technologies for teaching and learning purposes, how to break down knowledge differently and on different levels, how to integrate and use apps, videos, and slides, etc. Building a sense of community, for me, is probably the most important and crucial change for faculty and for students. Learning how to build a sense of community online is critical because we know students learn much better when they receive regular feedback. So creating an online reward system that is faculty to student and student to student is important. In essence, improving interaction and communication by helping faculty and teachers to address the challenges of not being a traditional face-to-face contact is critical. Helping them to build interpersonal relations with learners will be essential. And there are all kinds of ways that I hope our next speaker will share some with us and how you might be able to do that. We have to build institutional capacity. Faculty and teachers need to become familiar with the online learning environment. They need to receive training and professional development on how to use the required technology and to be able to get support from experienced faculty when needed. Some institutional approaches to the development of faculty and staff are categorized as follows. Innovation. Adopt an emphasis on innovation rather than on technology. And adopt a view that supports opportunities for staff to attempt new teaching and learning methods that encourage staff to support each other and share knowledge and skills. Look at what online facilitation competencies will be needed. The competencies required for online facilitation are used to design the course about online teaching and learning. Some of these competency areas include the administration of the course, facilitation, technical, evaluation, and assessment skills. Regularize and recognize ongoing professional development opportunities for faculty and staff to strengthen their online teaching skills, meaning they also need feedback. At the collegiate level, aids such as the use of artificial intelligence education platforms are being deployed throughout the collegiate level. Faculty are finding their way to these platforms that serve as virtual teaching assistants and help to increase student engagement and learning. These platforms are especially crucial for very large classes, which are typically found in a lot of our colleges and universities here. In addition, research studies are beginning to demonstrate that these technologies, when applied to knowledge level courses, have helped to decrease DFW rates, that is, Ds in classes, Fs, or students withdrawing, and student success has increased. EdTech companies can and are playing an enormous role, particularly during the pandemic, in the future of this model of education. Jessica Tenuta, the Chief Product Officer for a company called Packback, says this includes looking at privacy issues, pricing, and designing decisions around what tools will be most impactful in the classroom. The choices made by the EdTech companies can have material impact on the students and instructors. Hence, educators have to stay in the room to make sure these companies are held accountable. Faculty members can provide enormous guidance and leadership by either conducting or participating in studies that assess how effective these technology platforms are at improving student learning and retention. Another slight change in our higher education model here is having students living on campus, but taking their courses online from their dormitory rooms. This model has been going on for some years here in this country, but many campuses had to deploy that as a norm for teaching this year because of the breakout of the pandemic. Students like this model because it allows them to continue their social development and life skills, even though most of their academic instruction is occurring in their dorm room. It's also possible to meet and help the needs of some students, particularly students who are underserved, by offering them a needed place to live for financial help or sometimes work-related or even personal reasons. Sometimes students do not have a place at home to comfortably study or the technological support to engage in online campus learning. So those are some of the things that I think are important. We're also seeing that government, business, industries, and universities have been chipping away at this issue for some time now. And so partnerships are again beginning to evolve and become more formalized between government, business, industries, and universities. And universities are playing a key role in this area because they have the convening power to bring together all of these sectors into meetings, boardrooms, and certainly hearings as well here with government-related areas. Student success and degree completion are vital to support the economy of the future. More and more jobs will require a degree and will not be filled if universities and colleges around the world cannot produce enough graduates. The Georgetown University Center for Education here in Washington, D.C. has indicated that the foremost in-demand competencies in the labor market that we must address, whether it's through face-to-face or online education, are judgment, decision-making, communications, analysis, and administration. Others, experts, have said that 21st century skills will also include critical thinking, problem solving, and collaboration. So by continuing to prioritize and present a common and clear definition of global skills that will be needed, as well as sharing what experiences students will need to be successful, is essential. When combined or integrated with content area knowledge, these skills will foster competitive students and graduates. Mentoring and coaching experiences will be important to provide for students along with the virtual learning experiences they are engaged in. It will help their global skill sets as well. So through well-funded internships and externships, hopefully we can offer students opportunities to gain knowledge to accompany their virtual learning experiences. There's just one last thing I just quickly want to point out, because we are thinking a lot about the role of faculty and how the colleges and universities can help students to transition into this new learning environment successfully. But I also want to say that I think we need to think about preparing and educating new leaders to assume leadership roles in schools, colleges, and universities as we implement these new delivery modes. I think we need to ensure that leaders are interculturally and institutionally prepared to guide our campuses through not just transitions, but through real change. So thank you for letting me share my observations this morning.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Professor Howard, for your wonderful ideas. Really, you have presented real ideas to be applicable in the developing countries like Nepal as well. And thank you so much for the idea. Now I would like to request Professor Ster to share his perspectives on the theme. Thank you.
Good afternoon, good morning. Thank you. Thank you for organizing such a great conference at Nepal Open University and inviting me to this session. My meeting with the Open University Vice Chancellor, Dr. Sharma in 2018 quickly turned into MOU for this conference with the STAR Scholars Network. I'm very proud and thank you, Vice Chancellor, for your outstanding leadership and support to your faculty and colleagues around the world. It is my honor to be here. It's been already 10 months since March. I've been teaching my courses remotely here at the university in the US. Some challenges during this pandemic became innovative opportunities for research and collaboration. I am fortunate to communicate with my students and faculty colleagues during this pandemic using the Zoom and Canvas course management system, similar to Moodle and other course platform. Safety of the faculty, staff, and student is the #1 priority in the institution of higher education today. And during this pandemic, my experience are not much different from many colleagues who have been in the teaching field and other field. I would like to share 3 major activities related to teaching and research interaction with my student and scholar around the world that I was able to coordinate and able to work with them. The first, the pandemic became a learning opportunity for us. At least we explored and tried a number of different learning tools and technologies. I think we earned a Master of Certificates of how to use Zoom or Google Meet or similar platforms, and we became more connected to each other with known and unknown at home and abroad. We became aware of global issues and realized if a crisis takes place in a country, it becomes a global crisis. As an educator, we have a heavy responsibility of educating our students about the global crisis, not only the coronavirus pandemic, but also climate change, health, food and security, and other issues. The problem of your house can be the problem of my house. We also knew the crisis like this pandemic touches all walks of life, both the rich and poor, the white and black, and others. As an instructor, as a course facilitator, this year I focus on the bigger picture of humanity. I met my students virtually. I worked with them evaluating what resources they had, how they were working from home with the kids and elders. Instead of thinking too much about the grades and assignment, we contemplated the topics we believed meaningful and relevant during the course. We adjusted our deadlines and reevaluated learning materials to adjust the new technologies. Second, it is sad we could not travel. We could not meet in person even for this conference. It is sad we struggle with the kids and family staying home during the pandemic. It is sad we became stressful going online and teaching virtual. At least many of us are fortunate to have a job and family around us. It is sad more than 660 million have lost their lives. It is sad 1.5 million lives have lost because of the COVID. 660 million lost their jobs. And another 65.7 million are infected with the virus and struggling. This year, as a faculty member, I was able to graduate 5 doctoral students as they successfully finished their dissertation. I was enough to invite and speak at least 1,500 scholars from several institutions in research and publication webinar and professional development trainings. We had a productive conversation around the national and international discourse related to global student mobility, gender inequalities, and teaching and learning during the pandemic. I was also fortunate to coordinate with the journal editors and publish 3 special issues, at least 50 articles in 3 journals: Journal of Interdisciplinary Studies in Education with editor Emani Sala, Journal of Multidisciplinary Studies in Higher Education with editor Dr. Sam Sharma, and the Journal of Entrepreneurship and Economic Issues with Dr. Anup Tiwari. This year, as we celebrated the 10th anniversary of the Journal of International Student, the project that I started as a graduate student in 2010 has published 7 different issues this year that included 110 articles in a single year out of 668 submissions. In addition, we published 2 books and supported 15 authors for the new projects. Third, sometimes we forget to reflect on what we are doing. That's human nature, right? Have you counted the number of meetings and conference sessions like the one you are attending virtually this year? The number of workshops and trainings you have attended, probably it's a lot. I organized at least 3 to 5 meetings per week and attended 20 meetings on average per week. There should be at least 900 meetings attended since March of this year. I bet you had never attended this many meetings before. I wanted to point out the value you receive from some of these professional conferences and the meetings, which could cost you hundreds and thousands of dollars if you had to attend them in person. I feel privileged to attend this session and invite many of the students and colleagues to expand my personal and professional horizons in those past sessions. As an educator, I think we should continue expanding our possibilities and relationship. I know we have limited time for this session. I also echo with my colleagues here and be optimistic with Professor Hammond and Professor Howard. And educators, we have a power and freedom to uplift the hope and future of our students. And again, thank you for having me for this session and look forward to taking your questions later. Over to you, Aunt Mara.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Professor Bister, for your practical concern and practical ideas. I would like to thank Professor Hammond, Professor Howard, and Professor Bister for your wonderful ideas in the conference. Thank you so much. Now I would like to request Edu sir for proceeding the remaining session. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Adwaram sir. With this productive discussion, we have some questions from the participants or the audiences, and they are highly interested to know the different varieties or different realizations around the globe in this transition also. And the first question goes to Dr. Hammond. Like the people are interested in knowing, like due to coronavirus pandemic, the educational institutions could not run in normal way. With this impact, what several challenges you observed in the higher education?
Thank you for the question. I'm thinking that my experience this semester, or nearly a year now, has been one of isolation. I have attended some international and national conferences via Zoom, but for the most part, I know what my own experience has been with my students. So let me say a couple of things about that. I'm not very technologically astute myself. I learned how to use Zoom last March, and learned how to use many aspects of Google Drive and other things that everybody else has known for a long time last March. What I've found is that I give more one-on-one attention to my students. It's just natural with the technological opportunities. They can easily reach me, which is great, and then I can easily respond to them. But I would say the greatest challenge has been the students who have kind of drifted off. Ordinarily, I teach classes of 25 students how to write, and maybe 2 of them won't finish the course. This semester, my classes have averaged 5 or 6 or 7 students who have not finished the course out of 25. And I think that personal inspiration that they get from working together with their colleagues and with their teachers is difficult to be without. So I think at the same time that we use more of these techniques to meet people and to see people, I think we have to be careful about keeping as much of the human element in our teaching as possible.
Thank you, Dr. Hammond. And similarly, here is another question, and I would like to pass this question to Dr. Howard. Here is the question that, what kinds of suggestions would you recommend for developing countries for effective teaching in transition? Sorry, you are muted. Please unmute.
For developing countries teaching in transition, there are all kinds of challenges. Some of the most successful experiences in education we see, of course, is trying to bring the students into one central place so that they can access technology. So you've seen boarding schools springing up in countries in very rural areas. So because of their lack of access to connectivity and every person having their own equipment, it's very challenging. And so I think you have to kind of follow Professor Hammond's lead when you talk about trying to give your students as much individual attention as possible. And I will say that some of our teachers and faculty are finding that kind of work very fatiguing. They're suffering from a lot of fatigue because they've never had to interface that much with students. But I think in global countries that are trying to transition in more rural areas, trying to work with families will make a big difference if you can bring people together in clusters.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Howard. Then similarly, here is one another question that goes to Dr. Bister. For this, how do the teachers adapt to the new mode of teaching, evaluation, and reflection?
Thank you. Great question. I would go with the first evaluating what resources and technologies we have and what we are capable of doing it. Many of us teach different age group of students. One of the challenges that I have seen in Nepal and some other countries is we have really lengthy, long virtual sessions. I think we need to have a shorter interactive sessions. If you are teaching even the smaller kids, probably 20-minute sessions or even less. If you are in a college, probably, if you have a longer sessions, probably have a nice, decent break. That's something missing. And still we are teaching the way we used to teach in face-to-face. When we are in remote learnings, our materials are not that much different from the materials that we used to do in face-to-face. And the other thing is the pressure dynamics between the presidents and the faculty member or the school principals and the teachers. I think the dynamics should be shifted to a softer tone and reduce the stress that our students and teachers are going through. Rather than giving the pressure of finishing the courses or covering every single topics, I think we need to select what best works for us. Still we are focusing too much for the exam-centric goal rather than what may be the practical and how we can reduce. And imagine many of your parents who do not have a computers and who are relying on their single, cell phone, mobile phone to, listen some of these sessions of your teachers. And even here in the US, you imagine it's a developed country and still we have many students who do not have laptops and who do not have enough food to eat. And we have the similar circumstances in the Nepali communities. I think we should be mindful of the situation and be helpful. I think as a teachers, you need to be a role model, as a principal, as a chancellor, as a dean. I think we have to be a role model, innovative one, to how cooperating with these faculty and students and staffs in our communities. And I know there is no magic answer. It's not easy to take care. During this pandemic, it's a really huge role. I think we should take a single step, baby steps for any of these activities. Over to you.
Thank you, Doctor. Thank you, Dr. Bister. One of the participants is asking to Dr. Howard, that is, he's asking about very simply he's asking about mentoring. What is mentoring?
Mentoring is when you try and provide guidance to a student who is trying to obtain a particular goal. So if a student has decided that they want to become a better student, or if someone wants to become a better teacher or faculty member, there's a one-on-one relationship where the mentor provides advice, knowledge, information, and encouragement to the individual to try and help them to reach their goals. So, it's you develop a relationship, you're talking back and forth, you're pointing them to different avenues where they may find ways to meet their goals. So trying to mentor a student who has a lot of interests in a particular goal or whatever is important. It's also kind of very similar to coaching. You're offering them support, information, giving them feedback, listening to their questions, listening to their concerns, encouraging them to think about things a different way, encouraging them to think about what resources can they bring to their issues or concerns, and how do they apply those resources to meet the goals. So, a student could be working with a faculty member or an administrator, serving as a mentor to them. But it's someone who's interested in you, interested in your goals, and helping you to figure out ways to accomplish and achieve those goals.
Thank you, Doctor. Here, I would like to request our respected Dean Ramchandra sir. He wants to share his own observation.
Thank you, Edu. Thank you so much. Good morning, good evening to all. I was excited to hear from Jean Hammond. I thought it was very enlightening idea, the rapidly communicating to us. Thank you so much, Professor Hammond. I have tiny observations in a couple of minutes I would like to share. I taught American literature for 30 years through Uncle Tom's Cabin, through To Kill a Mockingbird. I remotely visited U.S. cultures right from 1492 to present time. Yes, we have here we have America vis-a-vis Nepal, that we are having this wonderful conversation. My observation is that sometimes we see we need this technology, this Zoom bombing, Microsoft Teams. Sometimes we feel that we are at the mercy of giant corporates in US based, that is one thing. And another thing is the poor are getting poorer, and this oligarchy in future could control the entire globe. That is one thing. And we are this part of the globe, whether India, people from New Delhi to go to New York, Dhaka to New York, Kathmandu to New York. What do these people think that America is, USA is heaven on earth? What is good for USA must be good for everyone. This hegemonic neo-imperialism is always working in our setting as well. We fix our yardsticks to measure our quality, whether university ranking, journal ranking, what Indian scholar Aizaz Ahmad would say, the metropolitan city universities decide what is my height. So in a sense, we are at the mercy academically, technologically, at the hand of some oligarchs. That's one thing. Of course, in USA, most of the hardworking people are there. This is a positive dimension. I am not ignoring, but at the same time, this is happening yeah, all over the world. And but another picture is there. The pandemic taught us a new lesson. The simple life of Nepal, village life, could resist the COVID-19 virus than the life full of luxury, burgers and food, uh, copy from nature, photocopy, what Plato would say, from nature, distance 3 or 4 times. The burger in the free frozen burgers, you know, converted life very vulnerable. This is some lesson pandemic taught us. So the life in practice of yoga, vegetarian life, and we would practice, in rituals, not touching, frequently washing our hands. These sort of things are there in the Eastern society, but this is globalization, reverse globalization, and people today are trying to change their lifestyle back to nature kind of thing. So I was really impressed by Gene Hammond, and I was a disciple of Noam Chomsky in 60s. We would criticize him separating language from society in his syntactic theories. But today, we find entirely different Chomsky, an activity of social justice, hating the warmongers, and at the age of 90 plus, he's a young man of 25. We would like to salute this gentleman. And Jean Hammond, I really was impressed. You are very rapid and very short, but very high density presentation. Thank you so much, Jean Hammond. Thank you, Krishna Vista. Thank you, Howard, Professor Howard. Thank you so much. And of course, Edward Value. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor Paudel, for your remarkable observation on this. And now we are at the end of this panel discussion session. And at the end, just I want to take one minute for all the panelists. For this one, what would you suggest for the future direction in the teaching in transition, or how could we interconnect research with the teaching? I would like to ask this common question to all the panelists. At the first, I would like to request Dr. Hammond.
Ooh, I was just looking at the chat section. This is a typical problem of this era. So I missed exactly what the question was. Bhumi Raj just wrote me and asked everybody about experience teaching. I would like to really compliment Zoom. I think Zoom offers many opportunities, both for international conferences, but also for classrooms. The closest way to recapture some of the best of the old method of teaching is through Zoom. And I think there are a couple of important issues. One is to force the students to show themselves and their pictures, their current pictures on screen, because if they hide, then they're not participating in the class, and they're missing an enormously important part of teaching. Secondly is just to be as receptive as possible to students under these conditions, recognizing all the difficulties that Professor Howard and Professor Bista talked about, that they have, both personal and academic, and adjusting to them. And if we do adjust to them, maybe we can have a better educational system than we've had in the past.
Thank you, Dr. Hammond. And the same question to Dr. Howard.
What was the question? I was also looking at the chats.
Hello?
Hello?
Can you repeat the question? Please repeat the question, sir.
Okay, so Our question is, what will be the future direction for this transition, or how could we interconnect research with teaching?
Well, I think the future direction is that this mode of delivery of instruction will continue. I think it's going to be difficult for us to totally go back to pre-COVID. So I think some of the research that is already going on to see if students are actually learning through this transition is critical. You know, Dr. Hammond mentioned that students aren't necessarily turning on their computers. And this is true in our K through 12 educational experiences as well, as students are taking the option of not putting their faces on the screen. So I think studies that help us to look at are their learning outcomes the same as students who are on screen, or are their listening skills getting better or stronger by not interfacing on screen? I just think right now there is a real opportunity for a whole nother area of research, particularly for young junior faculty that are pretty facile with the technology and are using it much more in their classrooms. Are they seeing the learning outcomes? One company that I've looked at have taken Bloom's technology taxonomy and asked faculty to translate their course into the different levels of learning of Bloom's taxonomy, and then seeing if they can achieve that through an online learning experience. And they're showing some real promise that students are able to reach the highest levels of learning as well as they did in their face-to-face learning experiences. But I just don't think there's enough information and data there. But I think it's going to be very difficult for us to go back. And from a global perspective, I think this is exciting because there will be more opportunity for interaction and interface. And not everyone will be able to travel to have an intercultural exchange of knowledge and information. So great potential, I think, for certainly educating those who are in rural areas or other underserved areas. I really think this transition into technology as a primary mode of delivery offers us a lot. And I hope we won't let the opportunity slip away when we get through this, pandemic.
Thank you, Dr. Howard.
I also echo with my colleagues here. Thank you. Yes, now we are globally connected, and the pandemic has again taught us a big lessons. And as Professor Powell said earlier, the East is connected with the West, and the West is with the East. A few minutes ago, we enjoyed the music, compiled by Dr. Wrights, and if you ask each of us how much we enjoyed, and those musics are, the big fan for the Western listener audience. The same thing with the teaching also. We have been revolving around the best practices that we have. And probably one of the lesson is also the personal and professional conference is the big example of where we are heading in the future. This is the $1 million conference if this was in person. Now we are globally connected. And the university college president, dean, and provost, and they are listening to each other. Definitely, yes, it takes time. And as Professor Powell pointed out earlier, the burger and KFC, probably is not the biggest, may not be on the priority. But look at in Kathmandu, how we are crazy for the burger and KFC. This is a new thing, right? So things are changing very, very rapidly, and we are finding our interest. And back to teaching cannot be isolated anymore now. We are no longer the teacher of just teaching or instructors. Somehow we are compelled, we have an obligation to engage in the research. So everything that you do in a classroom, there may be some ways of doing research and also involving in the service. In my case, anything I do in a classroom are connected with the research, and also that involves the students for their research and practice. The other thing is the journals. Journals are also changing their landscape of publications. Look at the number of digital books now you are reading. Big publishing companies are also changing the way they used to produce the books. Now lots of digital text. And also we started publishing many, non-English editions. The big time journals have also started non-English publication. Even in my network, we published two special issues, one in completely Chinese, the other in Bahasa Indonesia, which was about teaching and learning during the COVID-19. So there are many publishing houses and journals editors have been changing and looking into this possibility of publishing in bilingual, multilingual editions. The same thing is going to the teaching learning materials. They have been translated in different languages. There are many software that's going to help for even the students who are disabilities, students and other areas to look into. So yes, there is a big future. I think we need to be optimistic, look into what comes in on our way. And I think it's our call to look into and adopt as we move on.
Thank you, Dr.
It was a
Bister.
good question. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Bister. Actually, now we are at the end of this panel discussion, and the rest of the questions we will address later on and will send to the panelists in the email, and we'll get the answer if there are some more questions on. So by this panel discussion, we came to the conclusion that this pandemic or this transition is for the transformation, and these challenges are for the opportunities, and the things that we are trying to do are for the growing features of our professionalism. That's why this all kinds of realities, just like the narratives from Dr. Hammond, the experience, the perspective from Dr. Howard, then the perspectives of Dr. Bister, especially bring the new test or new varieties in case of the discourse of Nepali for teaching learning perspectives or integrating the research towards in the classroom. In the way, I would like to thank to all the panelists, Dr. Hammond, Dr. Howard, and Dr. Bister, very much for your valuable time, and to all the valuable distinguished guests over here and all the participants for your patience, and wish you all the best and have a good day in America and have a good night in Nepal. Thank you.
Thank you.
Session will be wrapped up by our chair, conference chair.
Okay. So tomorrow we start our conference sharp at 9. So we request you all please come into the room at 9. And now I would like to request Dr. Bhalo to conclude today's session.
Thank you very much. And also thanks to the panel for that outstanding presentation. I decided to become visible in the latter part. Was a little unmuted and I was getting a little break. I particularly want to thank Dr. Moore. In New York time right now, I think it is very, very early in the morning. And so it requires a lot on the part of the Americans to be here. So I've known Dr. Moore for a very long time, and I played upon that relationship and want to tell her publicly, thank you very much for your participation. In the conference today, there was just to all of the presenters, thank you very much. To all the national and international leaders, this concludes the day. It has been a robust day, and we want to thank all of you for the many questions that you asked. Today we covered primarily 3 sessions: school university teaching, learning in the COVID-19 era, and professional development and leadership opportunities and activities. In every instance, there were an acknowledgement that there are challenges brought about as a result of the COVID-19. Challenges related to funding, challenges related to professional development on the part of faculty members, challenges related to the knowledge and understanding by our leaders related to what faculty, what communities need to grow and develop. Challenges related to the level of concern and involvement of government and how government has a role to play in the development of higher education, in the development of communities, in the development of the workforce for the 21st century. One particular point that came out in the conference was very interesting and dovetails somewhat to what you were talking about earlier. And that was mentioned that we must begin to address the whole student, the three minds of the students in terms of paying more attention to engaging our students and asking them what it is that they want to learn. What is their learning style? And how can we adapt our teaching styles to fit those learning styles? This was a very important point made and an opportunity to seize upon as a result of the COVID-19. COVID-19 is forcing teachers to teach differently. It's forcing learners to learn differently. It's forcing planners to plan different. It's forcing researchers to think differently about new questions that were not on the table prior to COVID-19. This conference has surfaced a number of questions that we as professionals will have to address going forward in the 21st century. And as Dr. Howard said, there will be challenges after the pandemic. And I think the focus is so much on what is going on now that not enough attention is being paid to what are we going to do post-pandemic? How are we going to get ourselves back into the what I would call the teaching learning mode? Much was discussed in terms of professional development. There was an agreement throughout the conference that until and unless we begin to invest more time and energy in the development of faculty and administrators, unless we invest more time in those activities, we are going to fall further behind. Why? The new scholars that are in the classrooms today, the young people who were in those sessions, I wish some of you could have heard some of those sessions, the kind of research that is going on with the young scholars. They're going to challenge traditional norms. They're going to be asking questions, where is my place? What is my responsibility? How can I be helped to fulfill the role that I have been engaged in trying to learn about for the last 3 to 4 years? Professional development is going to be one of the most important things that developing nations are going to have to address. It's also going to be an important factor for existing nations to address. Staff development, professional development, was considered among some of the leaders on the conference to be the number one thing for us to pay attention to. With regards to learning the COVID-19, yes, there will be new opportunities. The question for us is how well will we be prepared? There's a great enthusiasm for embracing COVID-19 as an anchor for jolting our thinking, as a precursor for making us think beyond the box in terms of new teaching, new learning strategies. But what does that mean? It means that new investment, financial investments have to be made for colleges and universities. It means new teaching modalities have to be embraced by the faculty. It means that those teachers who are not up to speed need to be evaluated accurately and handled in a way that they are not obstacles to the teaching learning process going forward. It means that leaders are going to have to think outside the box when we start talking about relationship between teachers, administrators, and government, communities, and students. How do we bring these forces together in order to improve the teaching learning process? With regards to the school, university, and teaching, I think all of you accurately expressed what the challenges are. Going forward, I hope that there will be more questions throughout the conference. Let me close by saying the questions that have come out of the conference thus far will be organized and evaluated, and we will have a website that will put those questions and answers, if you will, on the website so people can visit them. I want to close by thanking all of the panel members that have worked so hard and the conference planners who have worked so diligently to put this conference on. Thus far, I can say by all standards, we have achieved a high level of success. Many people thought we could not do this. Some doubted their abilities to do this. Some was wondering how were we going to get through all of this. But I think what we demonstrated was the ability to come together as a team to work forward toward a single purpose, which is the model that will have to be adopted by colleges and universities if we are going to address the changing needs of the student population and the community and design and prepare a 21st century workforce so that we can change the society and embrace the Chomsky model. With that in mind, my distinguished colleagues, thank you for a wonderful day. Thank you for all your gifts. Thank you for all your talents. And with that concludes today's session. And I close by saying, namaste or namaskar.
Namaste. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Baba. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. See you tomorrow. Atmaramji, Eduji.
Sir.
Thank you, sir.